All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Rakugo, Season 1, Episode 13.
How can you smile at a time like this, Caleb?
Jacob, this is the culmination of multiple lines of story arcs for the characters. There is a huge amount of
pain,
yes, that I'm feeling kind of associated
lots of pain
with what's coming. But as of right now, this is that moment where we'll start to bridge the gap.
Yeah.
And if we start to move forward in the present, there is hope for redemption between Konatsu and Yakumo. And Yotaro, as a bumbling bumble, is probably going to be the catalyst, the impetus for said character growth.
Let's hope so. But this episode, we're probably going to get Konatsu crying and not understanding what happened. And
Yep.
Oh, God.
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into it. All right, everyone, be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, and then come back here for the discussion. All right.
Okay.
All right, well, that was actually a surprisingly, I would say, just calming and less anxiety-inducing finale. And I really liked that we got to jump back and forth quite a bit between kind of characters and time, and we didn't end up dwelling so much on the pain,
the death itself,
the deaths, plural. Isn't it actually almost a little bit cold how Kichi has her name spoken in this episode? Never.
Yep.
Sukeroku though?
Yep. Yeah. Well, and in a lot of ways it makes sense because Konatsu didn't really care for her mother too much after she left. And Yakumo didn't care about her nearly as much as Sukeroku. But oh man, it shows how cold Yakumo is. Or the fact that he's basically like pushing all of this away.
Okay. So since we've now converged the timelines, the past and the present, we always knew how cold Yakumo was.
Yeah.
But what we needed to see was how he became cold.
Right.
And what we didn't know was how early his coldness set in. Yeah. It was before this death, really. He, in some ways, practiced his coldness to the point where once Sukeroku died, he was able to then channel that at its fullest potential, fullest power, and leaves the hole in his heart vacant. And now he is a true Shinigami in a lot of ways. He literally has the...
Yeah, he's already dead.
Yeah, he is already dead. He is walking the line between life and death as an undead, just
and
husk of a man.
And where this is shown the most, I feel, is almost of course, is with Konatsu, right? Yeah. Because he specifically shunned her almost to make himself try and forget about Sukeroku.
Yep.
Because there's so much guilt swirling around inside him that this is my fault, right? That he can't think about it. He has to pretend it almost didn't happen, which of course is the worst thing to do as far as processing it goes, but also just for himself and the people around him. So
that's true.
Because the thing is that if he hadn't been so cold, maybe he could have helped Konatsu through it. Maybe she could have helped him through it.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And that's the kind of thing that we're still hoping maybe will happen.
Right.
But this is what, 20 years of easily of bitterness and resentment and everything all built up. You don't just undo that.
Nope. There's a lot of pain in this episode, but the things that hit me ended up being towards the end. So I'm going to kind of briefly go over most of the plot stuff that happened. He accepts the Yakumo name, which we needed to see what was the circumstances for that, but it was made in the context of him remembering the promise that Sukeroku and him made to each other, and how he in some ways is compelled because of how how stuck he is in the past in a lot of ways, to be able to just to have to make this promise. Now, when he casts off the ashes, and watches them go up into the sky, he's like, go, be gone forever, along with the Yakumo name. He's like, I don't want any connection to this. And then he inherits the name as...
Yeah, and the whole thing of, I'm the only one who can let you rest in peace. It's like, no. That is so not the right way to think about this.
Yeah, of course he thinks about it this way.
Right.
Shinigami. But, yeah. Oh, my God. Then we get to see Konatsu channeling both Sukeroku and Miyokichi. And this is literally the one time where Miyokichi kind of showcases herself in the story. Is Konatsu's doing the Rakugo, what was the name of it?
I don't know.
The Zonareshi or what have you.
I don't think it's the same one that Yotaro does later.
It is.
Oh, it is?
It is, yeah. She was literally singing the same lyrics.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And it's the one that he did that was the last one he did with...
well, it was the one that him and Yakumo did together, and it made her smile and laugh and all that stuff, and then it was then that Sukeroku decided, okay, yeah, let's do this.
Right. So yeah.
Yep.
But then, he's like, stop doing Rakugo, won't get you anywhere. And then she basically gives him the look, the Miyokichi kind of look. He's like, what's that? He's like, I'm going to kill you someday. And he said, kill me then. I'd feel much better. And, like, there's something I think that the show is kind of building up to in a lot of ways. Is it's this aspect of death and how liberating probably Yakumo sees it as being, especially as his world, the world of Rakugo, crumbles around him, and his connection to the relationships with the people around him has crumbled, like something that he either doesn't have them in his life anymore, like Sukeroku or Miyokichi, or even his old master, the previous Yakumo. I think in a lot of ways, the only really specific thing keeping him alive, like literally alive, not whether or not he would actually commit suicide or something, but just his will to go on, to get up in the morning and eat food, like that kind of thing, is literally just the experience of Rakugo being this thing that keeps him locked in like a perpetual state of immobility.
And that combined with his promise with Sukeroku.
Right, because exactly, I was leading up to that, because the exact promise of Sukeroku's was that he would make Rakugo that would never change, whereas Yakumo's would be to hold on to the Rakugo that doesn't change. And you could extrapolate from that the Rakugo that doesn't change is almost like the immortal Rakugo, the Rakugo that doesn't die, the Rakugo that stays on and lives on throughout all the changes and chaos and what have you, like a hunched over just vampire coming out of its coffin to do its story and then return back. I love the imagery of that, of the immortal storyteller where every day is suffering and pain. So all that he would want is to return to his bed to sleep and never wake up again.
In the part where he says, "I've long ago forgotten my real name,"
right?
That tears you up. That tears me up inside, because the thing is that there's the part of me that thinks he's actually talking metaphorically, right?
Oh,
in that, because it's pretty hard to forget something like a name, even if it was something that was 50 years ago, right?
Right.
But at the same time, no, I believe it.
Literal.
It could be literal, and even if it isn't, what it means is that he has no idea who he is anymore. Yep. He is just. He's not even a person anymore. He's a thing, right? He's a Shinigami that just does Rakugo, and in some ways, does what Shinigami do,
and guides people to their deaths, you know, or to the beyond, or what have you. And look at him now saying, like, oh, I'm the oldest of them all. You know, basically the only thing he has to look forward to now is kind of the twisted, dark version of Iroh's line from Avatar: The Last Airbender. At my age, there's just one surprise left, you know? And I'd sooner
leave that a mystery. And also, there's a way that you could go at it with that adds a lot more, even more dysfunction to his outlook, is that if he sees himself as a Shinigami, then that means there could be a reason that is not strictly selfish or doesn't appear selfish as to why he pushes people away. People like Konatsu, for instance, right? You'll be better off without me, and yet I'm going to keep you here. Right? Because I need to care for you, and yet you'd be better off without me, and yet, you know, I don't want you to do all these things. You know, and yet that's actually just for his own selfishness because he doesn't want to deal with, you know, the guilt, right? It's and maybe, just maybe, possibly, this dead husk of a man can be brought back to life. But we don't know. And oh man.
I wanted to talk about some cool visual storytelling bits that they had before we transition over to the present day stuff. There was this part where he's basically saying, what a large tree. Perhaps I'll hang myself from it. Then I won't need money anymore. My name is Yorokite Yakumo. Now, as they're doing this, he's basically in a door kind of transition point to be stepping out onto the stage. And before he does that, he's thinking, oh, okay, I could just go and kill myself, then I wouldn't need money. What a thought. You know, they show him basically that moment of where I would, you know, take that step there. Then it shows him in darkness, and as he steps into the light, he's going through the door into the light on the stage there. What's, I think, brilliant about this is we've now just shown in some ways how, because of the Yakumo name meaning what it does and how it connects back to Sukeroku, it is in a lot of ways the source of his pain. So Rakugo is this thing that he sees as a huge kind of painful reminder of everything that he lost. But actually there's a darker thing out there, and that is his own self-talk, his own self-worth,
his own loneliness, and
his own lack of identity. Basically, he has become nothing. But when he steps out onto that stage, there's just enough light, and what I think that is it's the thing that the audience brings, the thing that Sukeroku talked about as being so powerful in Rakugo, is that it was a conversation. So when he comes out there, they literally name him as he comes out onto the stage, and that's that little bit of light there. So it's like he's reinforcing his new name that he hates, and I love it there.
There's a part of it also that makes me think it's an aspect of denial, basically, where there's the denial in that Sukeroku never existed, hence, you know, shunning Konatsu, but then there's also the denial of Sukeroku isn't dead. This is, in a way, the one way that he can keep Sukeroku alive, right? Because the fact that Sukeroku still shows up to him, yes, guilt, absolutely, right? But the idea that he's basically saying, this is a way I can uphold my promise. This is a way that I can, you know, it feels to me that it's something where he hasn't accepted that Sukeroku died because of the guilt, and because of that, he is now doing everything he can to make it seem like he's still here.
Okay, I wanna put something out there that I think would be an easier way for him to do that, but because of it being connected to Konatsu, he doesn't do that. Konatsu is Sukeroku. Right. She is. So I don't think he really wants to keep Sukeroku alive, because it contradicts too much the idea of him trying to forget and move on from Sukeroku. Like to just forget and cast it into the darkness as if it never happened, you know? Maybe. So I understand what you're saying, but I want to know what you think about that, because I feel like they're in too much conflict with each other.
The idea of it being in conflict, I don't see that as being as much of an issue because of how torn up he is inside. Like if there was no conflict, he would reach an equilibrium of sorts, right? Like with whatever his situation was, and maybe he did, and that's why he, you know, they're able to do a time skip, and you know, and that's why he, you know, gets old the way he does and all that stuff. But the idea of the Rakugo being the light that he's moving towards, right? if it was simply something that he was doing as a dead husk, and that's just the thing that he does, like a machine, right? I don't think it would necessarily be a light form then.
Oh, okay. I was more putting it as a contrast to it being brighter than the darkness that surrounds him. It is a slightly better alternative. It is a hopeful thing.
And I think the reason why it is because of the promise that he made to Sukeroku.
Okay, but then that's something that he channels, he's not really channeling Sukeroku. It's like the why is something.
Not that he's channeling, right, because he's a different person and all that stuff.
Right.
But the idea that it's something where there's still proximity in that sense. Whether it's intentional and he's doing it because of that, or if it's more of like a haunting where now Rakugo forever is possessed by Sukeroku in a sense because of the promise they made.
He possesses the stage when he goes out there. That's actually a thing that they'll probably do, is they'll have moments where he'll be out on stage and he'll be doing Rakugo. And if Sukeroku appears like this again, the next time will probably be on the stage.
Oh, sure.
Not alone, but when Yakumo is on the stage. Yeah. And, Sukeroku is there, like right next to him, kind of just looking at him.
And the fact that he sees Sukeroku still, one, it totally makes sense, right?
I love it.
Two,
so good.
It adds so much more to everything that Yotaro does that reminds me of Sukeroku.
Right.
That first time when he fell asleep and started snoring during his performance, he didn't see Yotaro doing it, right? Yeah. Now, once he thinks about it, he knows, yes, that's Yotaro. But for a split second, probably, he's like, oh, that's Sukeroku.
Yeah.
But no, it's not.
Yeah.
He's gone.
Yeah. If also we could look at it this way, if Sukeroku is kind of haunting him in that regard, that's not a source of pleasure for him necessarily.
Oh, no.
Just because he's there and he kind of leans on him in this bit here in the episode, he doesn't necessarily like it.
Let's he doesn't like when he wakes up.
Right. Well, let's go to that point there, because I wanted to. Also the other visual bit there, that going in towards the light was then the waking up from the nightmare, and then Yota basically opens his eyes and has a little bit of a transformation here. And it's like, okay, that's great. And then we show him out on the stage having the conversation with the people out there doing Rakugo, and it looks fun, enjoyable. And then I think this is completely random and there's no point in bringing it up, but I thought it was funny that literally this character here,
the one resting on his
old
arm,
guy, is literally just this is Sukeroku's character model right here. Like,
well, he kind of has the scraggly beard and
look at the hair. It's just Sukeroku with glasses basically, and older.
I don't know. Maybe.
Do you see it?
I kind of see it, but also
I just thought it was
not.
funny. I just thought it was like what's all that? And then he bumps into Kanatsu. We're talking about his promotion. He ends up basically doing the Rakugo that was the last one that he did with Yakumo. And right when he gets to the lyrics bit there, she drops the "I'm going to have a child," which I almost want to save that for a future episode's discussion, because it's literally just this will be a season 2 plot point kind of thing.
Well, and
there's no way we can know who the dad is. I think it's actually not really important yet.
Oh yeah, I almost think it doesn't have to ever be important.
Right.
Because and the fact that at the ED, when it pans out and it shows the image of the four of them, she's also holding a baby. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did a small time skip again to season 2, where it's like it starts with her, giving birth or something like that.
And Yota, he's like, well, what if I was his dad? What if I was the father? And she is furious at the insinuations he's making here. One, because I think she literally just said, I'm not going to do the marriage thing. That's not for me. And then he's like, well, I mean, we could be a couple, And he's like, I mean, she might be like absolutely pissed right now regarding something that connects back to Yakumo. But I think it's also that,
oh, sure. Yeah, maybe like I could see that happening, where maybe she's thinking there's no way I want someone to help basically father my child that is going to inherit that man's name. Yeah. All right.
So we have this talk. It was almost kind of a rambling of Yakumo's here, and Matsuda was kind of just like positively like sending little vibes back towards him there, and it was really like it was really hard to really absorb, at least for me, because what we have going on here is, one, the dissonance of Matsuda seems like he's eternal. Like, Yakumo feels already like he's 10 years older than Matsuda at this
It's not
point.
the years, it's the miles, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as he's, rambling about this, it feels like, if anything, he's basically preparing us, the audience, in some ways for the fact that he, one, either is going to die or wants to die.
Mm-hmm.
Because
yeah,
all of this is like, well, it's just so centered around death and everything, and how everything just fails and falls, and
so
Rakugo's death,
So yes, and absolutely everything that you just said. I feel like it's also something where it's showing how times have changed, right? It's not just that he wants to die, right? Because I'm sure he does, right?
Yeah,
he's said as much in different points through the episode
and before.
Yeah. But it's also this idea that he's in a different world now. Mm-hmm. And Sukeroku was the one that was always adaptive, right? Sukeroku was the one that, changed to the audience and things like that. And now he's tasked with keeping Rakugo alive, but he's in a very different world than he used to be. And he's aware that he is, right? Matsuda had the whole comment of like, she dishonored you and, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, things aren't exactly like that anymore, right? So he's aware that it's happening, but it's still something where he feels like it's happening without him, right? He's not really able to change with it. He's a stubborn old man, right? And it's that connection now that he's probably realizing between him and his previous master, and how badly that went. Right. Sure. And while he might not be thinking about, no, he is definitely thinking about his previous master, because it's literally on the anniversary of his death. Mm-hmm. And then of course he thinks about Sukeroku because of how, his master pushed Sukeroku away, right? Yeah. So it's really setting things up for the audience so that we know where he's at, but also so that he knows where he's at.
Right.
That way there could potentially be some conflict surrounding it, and then maybe some change. There won't necessarily be, right? Because I'm sure it's going to get somehow worse before it gets better. But yeah.
I also find this whole bit here about basically this whole situation as being something where he is not channeling energy into combating the way things have changed.
Right.
Now, an example of this is that his previous master is being honored here at the anniversary of his death.
Yep.
A guy who he had very little respect for. Had respect for, but probably not as much love for towards the end, I would say. There were some ways the master had definitely failed him.
Yeah. And in general, Yakumo didn't really get attached with a lot of people anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
yeah. Mm-hmm. And I find it rather sad, given all that energy he had against his master doing what he did, how much he's just kind of accepted that this is the way things are. So in some ways I would point that as being like, well, he's actually found a little bit of balance in life. He's wiser, he's more mature. I would actually say yes. I would say in some ways it's not right to hold on to bitterness, right?
Yeah.
But the other way of looking at this is that he's dead. Yeah. Like, he's dead inside. This is a dead man walking.
Yeah, where is it coming from? Is it coming from an actual element of forgiveness and perspective, or just apathy?
Right. Apathy is death.
Right.
The reason why I brought that up is because they literally had a thing that they brought up in the previous scene to be a point of, wait, what? And we have two characters who respond with a what, and that's Yota. But then we also have this scene with Matsuda here, which is I love it because I don't think they're communicating here really. is something rather interesting. It said that tomboy never does anything I tell her. I was more surprised by how angry you got. Matsuda being 72 years old, and he says, she's a precious daughter to me too. I need to get her to reveal the name of that deadbeat father. And yes, you're a little traditional, Matsuda, but Matsuda, your heart is in the right place. Love you so much.
Right.
Now, what's interesting here is that rather than be like, putting a lot of energy into it, he's just like, yeah, I understand how you feel. I don't like it either. It's what she wants. And he's basically saying, like,
hollow words.
Like hollow words that are probably the right words.
Right, exactly. Which is the same thing with the grave, right?
Yep,
it's the right thing to do, right?
Yeah. And also, I wanted to bring up something that I hope we get to see when he does Rakugo next. Because I want to go back to the first episode and see if this was the case with his Rakugo then. Is that he was doing Rakugo correctly, but it was hollow. It's something that
was something they talked about. Is they were like, your Rakugo compared to Sukeroku's, it's got no life, right? It's Sukeroku's was always full of energy and whatnot. Yeah,
it inspired a conversation.
Right.
Yeah. And then in those moments where maybe he's the most cold.
Yeah.
And it's also the there's the aspect of the master, and the reason why it's being done here is that he's half probably expecting Sukeroku's ghost to be here in his imagination or what have you.
Well, and when he looked over his shoulder and he was like, so you came too?
Right.
That was almost the same kind of expression that he had when he did the Shinigami performance.
Okay. I don't remember the Shinigami performance as much. Because it was more like he was more doing this, like looking directly. He kind of had Palpatine eyes.
But there were times when he did like
like all the way looking behind him.
Not looking behind him, but no, they did it with like camera angles where they did it with camera angles where
Oh, okay. I just forgot then. This scene pains me, and then Yota coming through the smoke.
Yeah, well, and okay, so the fact that Sukeroku is not talking.
Yes, that's really important.
I think that's so important because it's again that aspect of him. I feel like it's Yakumo basically punishing himself.
Yep.
He doesn't get to have a conversation with Sukeroku. He doesn't get to hear Sukeroku do Rakugo again. He just gets to see his face and have it haunt him.
Yep.
Right? That's it. That's all he deserves, right?
Right.
And he also has the whole thing of, are you coming here to gloat, over how I've aged and all that stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That carries so much weight.
Yeah. With Yota coming in here and kind of talking about like, it's the name I've made, it's like I'm being human means changing whatever way it takes to suit your name. And it's like, that's the most like painfully pointed thing that he like he told him the story, right? He told him the story all those years ago.
Right. I believe that's the whole point of the first
what they're
season.
insinuating. The first season.
Hence why he wants to have his name changed to Sukeroku.
Right. But the idea that he's basically setting him up to say, like, I want the name Sukeroku, but then by doing it this way, he's basically saying, yeah, like you did to suit the name Yakumo, without even really knowing he's saying that. And then the way you almost can imagine in this scene right here, because there's so many parts where I just want to pause Rakugo and just look at it and go, do you realize what's going on right here, just in this second, where he goes, oh, really? His eyes are shut. He's looking down, kind of in this thought of like, almost like prayer. And in my thought, he's basically saying, oh, isn't that funny, Sukeroku? Do you hear this kid?
Yeah.
Do you hear this kid?
Right. Yep.
That's just character depth right here. The fact that this scene, which has such a pointed bit of dialogue that's so obvious what they're, bringing up here, and yet it's actually his response of, oh, really? Kind of thing of like, is that the way it is? Is that what I ended up doing? Did I actually? That's funny. Yeah. And then he deflects as fast as possible to the,
have you found your Rakugo?
Have you found your Rakugo?
Yep. Yeah.
And yet, I like also that in some ways he is not frowning here. He is kind of smiling a little bit.
Oh yeah, well because
like he finds this whole thing.
It's a bad joke.
Like it's a really bad joke. Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
It's some sick kind of humor, and then of course the sickest evolution of the humor is that he's still looking. And then he comes in to say what he wants to is let me inherit the Sukeroku name, literally kneeling on the grave
of his previous master.
The grave of his previous master.
Yep.
Perfectly encapsulated in it. Looking up at him with eagerness.
Yep.
Literally saying like, "Hey, you want to go through this whole pain thing all over again?
And
like, let me rebirth that for you. Let's."
And there's so many layers to this because on the one hand, he's on the grave of his master. So he remembers all the mistakes that his master made, and the fact that he has turned into his master. He inherited the name, and he changed to fit the name. Right?
You're still talking about Yota, right?
No, I'm talking about Yakumo.
Okay, because then Yakumo's not on the group.
No.
Gotcha. Sorry, I got mixed up with
Yotaro is on the grave.
Right.
Yakumo is seeing this. This shot is Yakumo's perspective.
Right. Yes.
Yotaro is on the grave of his previous master. Right. Yeah. Right after saying making the illusion and the connotation that yes, once you adopted the name, you changed to become like your master, right? So are you going to make the same mistakes? And now here, I'm going to do the thing that one could be seen as an insult because I don't want to inherit the Yakumo name for one, and then also bringing up all this previous pain and whatnot. And then in addition, there's the idea that this person that he sees as being Sukeroku is on a grave. He just saw the ghost of Sukeroku, and now, almost as if rising from a grave, the person that he sees as Sukeroku is saying, let's do it all over again.
Yep. That was just brilliant. It was just a really good show. It knows what it what it's doing. It knows what it's doing.
And yet...
Now
the bit
that killed
me
us
the hardest
has nothing to do with the actual episode.
By far, no contest.
No contest.
As good as this episode was.
Yep. Is this freaking shot
is
in
that
the credits.
Shot at the end of the credits?
Because you realize what they're doing here. It's a new generation. It's a new group of It's a new group of people. We have the young ones in the middle now.
Yeah.
Just like we did before.
Yes. I
almost want to go and bring up episode 12's ED just to compare the orientation because I believe it's
based on who's sitting where. Yeah,
exactly. In what spot. So let me bring that up really quick here.
Oh, okay. I didn't have it.
That one that's right. That was the epic long episode where there is no
But
hold on, let me grab it from another one here.
Okay. There it is. Yeah. So
you have Bon where Yota is. You have Sukeroku where Konatsu is. You have the old master, the previous Yakumo, where our current Yakumo is.
Right, and then Matsuda where Miyokichi is.
Matsuda just filling in because
it kind of breaks down at that point. It needs to be symmetrical.
Well, no. In that respect, he needs to be flanking the main two.
Well, and also and another thing that's important is not just position, but position relative to everyone else.
Yes.
So it's not just that Yotaro is next to Yakumo.
Yeah.
It's that Yakumo is separated from Konatsu. Konatsu.
From both her and Matsuda.
Well, yeah. But and then Matsuda is next to Konatsu.
Okay.
Sure. The relationship between Matsuda and Konatsu, as was stated in this, when Konatsu was like, "Yeah, I did feel bad about making Matsuda cry," right?
Yeah.
The relationship between them solid, right? The relationship between Yakumo and Yotaro is solid. And even the relationship between Yotaro and Konatsu is solid, although his comment might have changed some things.
It's budding.
Yeah.
It's budding.
Yep.
It takes time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Yakumo and Konatsu, there's a wall there. Trust me.
Yeah.
And she's holding the baby.
Yeah, this scene, not this scene, sorry. This image.
Yep.
Perfectly encapsulates another thing that's really painful about moving from season 1 to season 2. and I said it at the bit there, is just that we won't get to see the group again.
Yep.
And that's just, yeah, of course. We always knew that was going to happen. But there was something so I would say so cold about the fact that we didn't even really get time to mourn their deaths.
Yeah.
I think it was a genius decision to not include the funeral.
Yep. Because from Yakumo's perspective, there has been no mourning this entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something that needs to be fixed.
And Konatsu is not allowed to express in that
way.
way.
The closest thing she can do is when she does the Rakugo, and it's actively repressed.
Yeah.
I just gotta say, just because, Konatsu's face is exactly Miyokichi's face.
Yep.
In the ED, which is just, of course.
Yeah.
Which also I feel like adds an additional layer to why Yakumo wants to pretend that she doesn't exist.
Sure.
Is because he doesn't see his mistake as having happened with Sukeroku. Sukeroku was the person that he cared about, and there was all this pain, and the fact that Sukeroku's dead, absolutely, right? But
sure.
It wasn't what he did to Sukeroku or anything like that really caused the issue.
It was what he didn't do.
It was what he didn't do.
Right. Yeah.
And then but with Miyokichi, it was what he did. It was what he did.
Right.
It was specifically what he did.
Konatsu, it's both.
Right. Yeah.
It's a whole bag.
Yep. Cycle.
All right. Well, that was the season 1 finale of Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju.
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. It's a fantastic show.
Yeah.
So if you want to see the next episode's reaction, the first episode to season 2, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there. And all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general. And you can also talk with Jacob about his book that he wrote.
Yeah, so I wrote a sci-fi novel. It's called Battle Lines. It's available on Amazon. Link in the description in both hardback and ebook, whichever works best for you. It does involve some of the motifs that you have seen here, like people seeing people that are dead, or other stuff too. But yeah, if that interests you, go check it out.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.